Hi, you've reached Call Your Publicist, your go-to source for PR moves, media moments, and brand strategies that keep businesses and people in the headlines for the right reasons. I'm one of your hosts, Jenna Guarneri, CEO and founder of JMG Public Relations.
And I'm your co-host, Alexandra Anastasio. Let's start talking.
Gather round, it's spooky season, and today we're not telling ghost stories about haunted houses or graveyards. No, these are the legends that haunt boardrooms, classrooms, and PR pros to this day.
Stories of poison pills, soda cans with sinister surprises, and oil-soaked coastlines. They're not fiction, they're PR nightmares that left their mark on history.
Some were handled so well, they became case studies of redemption. Others, they're still cautionary tales, the kind that send chills down any publicist's spine.
This is Call Your Publicist, Halloween edition. PR horror stories we should all learn from.
So this week is Halloween.
Not my favorite holiday. It's
I
not.
don't mind either.
That's why
This
we
is
get
the
along so
most I will wear is this orange shirt. Don't
Okay.
ask me to put a costume on.
Well, I'm wearing black, but that's my usual wardrobe.
I
for
was
the
going to
most
say,
part.
I should be wearing the black.
You should.
I
Actually.
should.
You do love black.
I do.
Whereas
I
we're
do.
both not wearing it.
This is
actually.
true because we do a lot of times coordinate. But see,
We
without even knowing, we coordinated because I feel like
this is true.
this is like a Halloween vibe.
It is vibe.
It is
You
a
brought
vibe.
the vibes today.
I
Thank you.
did. We didn't bring the costumes.
No, we're not going to.
No, we don't do that. We do not do
the
that.
crew.
No, I'll put these on. Now I'm somebody else. But otherwise, we did bring some horror stories.
We did. And some of these
Yes.
actually we talk about in the book for You Need PR. So I'm
Yep.
excited to now revisit them and talk about, what made them horror stories? How did their company handle the crisis? Could they have done better?
Right.
That way we can learn from these opportunities. But I find some of them really fascinating and kind of crazy at the same time, right?
And I feel like aren't some of these, because some of these I do remember briefly. We're just going to put it out briefly. But I feel like these are things that are like in the PR books or in things that are being taught in like
they
school
can
as
be
examples. I know you put one of them in.
standardized examples.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. I know one of them is in the book, which is fantastic because I
Mhm.
think these are things that students are learning from.
Oh yeah, there's so much learning to be done from this. I think case in point, let's talk about the Tylenol one. That's a classic one
That's
to talk
crazy.
about. 1982. At this point, it's so many years old. I mean, dare we say that? We are not going to say ages by any means,
No,
but that
we are not.
ain't that long ago. But it
That's
is
crazy.
that long ago. So crazy. So what happened with the Tylenol poisoning? So in Chicago, there were 7 deaths related to Tylenol capsules.
Right.
So
Creepy.
so creepy. 7 died from ingesting Tylenol extra strength capsules that had been tampered with and laced with cyanide.
Which is so crazy. And I think they had to
Ooh.
pull, Johnson & Johnson had to pull, what was it, 31 million bottles off the
They took
shelves?
swift action on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they didn't
Well,
wait.
you have
There
to.
was a national
That's
recall. I mean, that's
wild.
it. Because as a brand, you're just assuming this is the end of us. We're done.
Yeah, I mean, people died. Where did this come from? How
Mhm.
did this happen? I think, but addressing it immediately,
Mm-hmm.
getting in front of the story before it kind of takes a life of its own,
Correct.
right?
And that's what their CEO did. So James Burke at the time appeared on national television to communicate openly with the public and the media to understand the public's safety to place the public's safety over financial concerns, which helped shape the public's perception of how Tylenol was handling the situation.
Right.
So his words during that speech were so key because then the community and the world understood that Tylenol wasn't trying to backtrack and say, it
Right.
wasn't us, it's not us. They actually said, coming forward,
Right.
they're trying to put the public safety as their priority,
Right.
which is so key in a time like this. But also, let's put our mindset into 1982. No social media.
No.
TV is where you found your news aside from the newspapers, right? So we're talking about traditional media.
Right.
So it was so important for him to come out and make this statement because people were paying attention and people, were tuned into TV for
Right.
these news conferences. Conferences were huge back then. Now it's
Like
become
the
more
breaking
political thing.
news. Breaking news
Breaking
actually
news.
meant breaking news. And
Yes.
if you were sitting in front of your TV watching something and all of a sudden, like the ticker at the
Yeah.
bottom and you'd hear the, I think it was like I don't know, the sound, but you knew like the beep, something was
going
coming on.
Right, the media alert. Media
Yes.
alerts were big back
And then
then.
boom, there went your show. And then it
Mhm.
was like they cut to. So that was like that sense of urgency. Like when
Yeah.
your show was cut into or there was like news took over a program,
Mhm.
then you knew, okay, this is big.
Right.
Because breaking news really meant breaking news. Today, I feel like everything's breaking news, which
Correct.
then I get annoyed because I'm like, is it really breaking news or is it just news?
Well, I
That's a
hate when
story
you get
for
those
another day.
emails and it's like breaking news: celebrities broke up, and you're like, "Well, where
Hello,
we're
that happens
deviating
every
from-
day.
we're
It's not breaking
deviating from the
news.
term of what makes
Exactly.
it breaking news."
But having him come out and have that statement, that is breaking news. And that's him getting
Yeah.
out in front of there. And it's kind of because obviously now, again, at that time, 1982, like, it was, we weren't,
different
exactly.
time.
Right. So, like, if we talk to our parents or, some people who maybe were, had kids at the time who were little, you're in a panic. Like, oh God, do
Yeah.
I have this in my house? Have
Did
I
I
given
just
it?
take this?
Right. Who did I give it to?
Right.
Running to check your bottles, or I don't know how you would know, but saying like,
At the time, I'm sure there was some sort of memo about it.
right.
Right.
So like at that time, you seeing somebody come out, the face behind, the CEO saying, okay, like you switch right over to like, you got to get the fear out of them and you
Mhm.
got to get like
Well, I think
like
there's,
empathy and
the leadership,
connection.
his leadership was really important to this scenario because people look towards the leader to feel safe and
Right.
to feel like this is going to get resolved, right? They want to build trust in
Right.
you, and your words will build their trust. So that way, it takes your team can then go behind the scenes and try to resolve this and figure out the solution. So you just need to keep the people calm, and
Right.
that's what James did at the time. And then the solution wound up being Tylenol created this tamper-proof bottling system that is now a standard.
Right.
So something that was a fiasco, now they are the innovators for,
Right.
and now has been the gold standard. And also it's the gold standard for crisis comms, this case study of how they handled it so well. And, of course, they came out on the other side of it. And now,
Right.
Tylenol still clearly is existing to this day.
Right.
But it was quite a scenario and quite a crisis at the time for the brand.
Well, I mean, in essence, they too were a victim of
Yeah.
a crime, right?
Right, 'cause they
Because
didn't-
somebody
they
tampered with
tampered.
their product,
Right.
and in turn, that resulted in unfortunate deaths.
Mhm.
Like, that's huge.
It is.
So,
And that happens to brands where it's like it's not your doing, but you have to handle and
right.
deal with the outcome of it and mitigate whatever risk you can in the process of it. So I think overall Tylenol, great job in their crisis comms there. I think even though yes, the situation is way outdated, media landscape has changed dramatically, there's still things that relate to us to today's world of how to communicate
Right.
with the public.
Well, how to gain back their trust,
Mm.
right? Because I'm sure after that, I mean, I probably would have said to myself, I never want to Tylenol again.
Yeah.
But if you build that trust back and then what happens starts to not take center stage in your mind,
Mhm.
I think now too, for people, I know if I get a bottle of something and I open it and there's not like a protective seal, I immediately am like, is somebody trying to poison me? Like
Right.
you think about that because now they have set that, or they did set that back then when they switched into, crisis mode of creating these tamper-proof bottles, or having the seal at least. Now you're quick to think to yourself, okay, well, this is placed here for my protection.
Mhm.
Why is it not?
Right.
So I think that helped them regain the trust
Correct.
that was lost. I'm just curious. I didn't even look into this. Did they ever find out like who did that? Like,
I don't know. I don't know.
That's
It's probably hard to
interesting.
backtrack.
I know. How would you like?
Yeah, I feel like in today's world, there's probably more security options and ways to find that, but maybe back then it was hard to. Who knows?
That's true.
Yeah. But I think, you know what? Another interesting one, if we want to shift a little bit from Tylenol to Pepsi, right, to soda. Let's talk soda. The syringe scare of 1993. So there was rumors
crazy.
of syringes in Diet Pepsi cans, not scans. It started with an
Wild.
elderly couple reporting this in Washington. And then it evolved into more than 50 tampering claims reported nationwide, right? So
Wow.
one person claimed it and then it kept happening. But it sounds like these are rumors. There weren't actually things in the cans. Maybe I'm sure that at some point, once it started, perhaps then, the
Right.
mimicking system happened and then there actually were. But then Pepsi's dealing with, again, more tampering of their items.
Right. You know what this kind of reminds me of too? Not that it's the similar or same, but because we're talking about Halloween. I don't know if your mother ever did this, but when you went trick-or-treating, and I'm totally going off topic here. When you would go trick-or-treating and you'd come back with, your little bucket or
Yeah.
sometimes like a bag, before like we could have the
everything.
candy, it would be dumped on the table and it would be like, we're checking for razor blades in the Snickers bar.
Oh, yeah, that was the thing.
Okay.
That was a whole nother crisis.
I just wanted to eat the candy, but
Ugh.
my mother had to go through everything.
Check to see if it was open.
So I
what kind of
wonder,
candy.
did that come from like any of these? Like, again, never asked, like, why are we, like, where did this come from? But I wonder if it's something like with the Pepsi syringe scare, right? Like putting a syringe in a can, pretty freaky. Is it putting a razor blade in candy?
Similar concept for sure.
I mean, we never found one, thank God.
No, but
I
I'm sure
hope it was a
there's
myth.
stories of it, and
Right.
it was a myth probably evolved, and then I'm sure somebody created it. But I think with Pepsi's response was really awesome. Is they formed a crisis team at the time, and then they issued a video showing how impossible it is to tamper during production of their soda. So they came out and said, "No, we cannot be. These bottles cannot be. These cans cannot be tampered with. It's not possible."
Right.
for
Somebody had
that
to do it.
on the outside,
I gotcha.
showing their innocence in it. But they've used the video as proof to show what their factory looks like and how that couldn't be.
Which
So-
is interesting too, because that wasn't during social media either, right?
No, so,
they
the
had
video could
to
go viral.
right. So they had to probably have a crew come in and film that so
Yeah.
that they can put that statement
And
out with that video.
For sure. And then imagine also them having to make a quick turnaround, whereas turnarounds today have to be instantaneous
Yep.
because of social media. They had a little window to produce this video,
Yes.
but maybe like a day or two versus, minutes and hours, where that's how quickly people have to respond these days. But I think the lesson learned from Pepsi is the transparency
Right.
and protect the reputation, because they provided access into their production, probably when they probably might not do so.
Right. So by letting the consumer into their world
Mhm.
and seeing what goes on behind the scenes, you were able to see, okay, you know what? This can't happen.
Correct.
At least not there. What's happening on the outside is different. Maybe it was just somebody popping a can, dropping a syringe or something
Yeah.
in there and saying, oh, look what I found, and wanting to kind of profit off of that in a sick way.
Right.
And-
Well, do you know, at some point after this video surfaces, after this video will start issued, at some point afterwards, a video surfaces of surveillance footage of the supermarket where the woman tampered with the can and
Oh,
put the
dear
syringe
Lord.
in.
That's
Ah,
wild.
could you imagine the crisis? Everyone was probably like, "What?" That.
So that one person, it's crazy, right? How one person sometimes can create, I mean,
Such havoc.
yes.
Yes.
And that can be said for many things when you hear about, fires and all these kind of crazy things. But it's always like, then you find out that person behind it. Whatever happened to that woman? Hopefully she's not in trouble.
Definitely got in trouble.
That's crazy. Pepsi was here. They're making videos. It's not like they had like somebody on their production line go, get your phone
There's no
out.
content creator.
No, we can't just be like, hey, come here. We need you to do a
Gotta hire the
video.
production
And then in
company.
3 minutes, that video could have been posted to social media and it would have just had a life of its own. Instead, Pepsi probably spent so much money in trying to get ahead of that. So
for
yeah,
something they didn't do.
exactly.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So another example.
and this is the one that's in your book, right? I knew where you're going. I
Yes.
knew it.
You read.
I read.
PR.
I did my homework.
The Exxon Valdez oil spill,
Crazy.
1989. So let's set the stage. A tanker spilled 11 million gallons of oil off of Alaska.
It's a lot of oil.
11 million gallons. You know what oil does in that kind of water? It kills the animals. Horrific.
I was just gonna say, it kills the animal,
Environmental
pollutes
crisis.
everything.
Everything. It's a nightmare for the environment, right?
That's horrible.
It's horrible, horrible. God even knows how wide that spread. 11 million gallons of oil.
It says
right?
it spread in the research that we did.
Oh,
It says the oil spread over 3,000 square miles. That's a lot.
It's a lot of animals.
It's a lot. But you know what's even, well, that's terrible in itself, that how much spread or how much spilled, how far it spread, and what it did. But I think, too, what's also terrible about this story is that the CEO at the time did not immediately get in front of the crisis. He waited.
And then the company Exxon issued a spokesperson first to talk. Not even the CEO, some spokesperson the day after the spill, who initially downplayed the severity by stating that the company did not expect major environmental damage. I'm sure you didn't, but you did.
Right. And even if you didn't expect that damage, once all of that spilled, where'd you think it was going to go? Like, if you spill that much, it's almost like if I drop a lot of liquid at home on the counter, it's going to spread. Where's it going?
Correct.
Where's it going?
Correct. And then finally, the CEO issued a statement nearly a week later.
That's
That's
gotta be a PR no-no. Is that a PR no-no?
Way no-no. And then he was criticized for his lack of sufficient empathy and remorse. His statement included, Exxon has accepted its responsibility to clean up the spill and meet our obligations to those who are adversely affected by it. Like such a written out legal response.
So somebody just was like, please read this. It's
Yes,
about time.
Correct.
Did he ever say, or did they ever say why, like, it took him, like, almost a week? Like, why did he stay silent?
Who knows? I don't know if they issued that, but there was quite a level of damage that's very hard to come back from because it shows that you don't care.
Right.
Whether you do or not, not to say that they don't, but to the public, their perception is that you don't care. Your company doesn't care. They
Right.
just don't want to be blamed. They don't want the legality of it. Oh, we didn't mean to.
So be quiet and it'll go away, kind of like sweep it under the rug, and we're not going
to. They try, but I mean, really, if you look at the severity of it, you can't sweep that under. How can you sweep that under the rug? The devastation was catastrophic. So no empathy from that CEO. Terrible example of what not to do. Oh, a great example of what not to do.
I was going to say, obviously, this is in your book. You need PR. I'm sure
Yes.
we know this is taught. I mean, I didn't take PR classes,
Mhm.
but I'm sure anybody who has can attest that they probably have learned about this.
Yeah.
I feel like without having taken any classes, this is an example of everything not to do.
Mhm.
If you are ever in a crisis from a PR perspective, this only intensifies the problem, not helps. Where can you find empathy for somebody or a situation when they don't even want to address it?
It's just, there's no point in having that route. It's ineffective.
Did he get fired? Just curious.
Maybe he should. But that's
I'm
a
just
good
curious.
question.
I always wonder like what happens, right? So when you're in these situations and
Mhm.
it's from a PR perspective and you don't address a situation immediately, you don't get ahead of it, sort of like the way the Tylenol CEO or the
Mhm.
way Pepsi did. They stepped in front of it, they owned it, right? Just own your mistake and help
Fix
move
it.
forward.
Yes.
So when you don't, obviously, how do people trust you again? So that's why when I say,
Yeah.
not that I'm looking for anybody to get fired, but I'm just saying, like, how do people trust you again? Because what if something was to
It's a long
happen,
time.
God forbid?
The companies could go out of business for that very reason.
Right.
Exxon obviously still exists, so they recouped from it.
Right.
But that's a hard one for people to really get through. Yeah.
That definitely
But
is.
I have one example I didn't share with you in advance. This is a little bit of a surprise. I wanted to share an example of a positive reaction
Okay.
of a company. So I'm going to share this with you. Ready? So
Okay.
Domino's, the pizza brand, right? So in
Oh,
2009,
yes.
2 employees posted a grotesque video on YouTube of themselves tampering with food. So Domino's was
At
so,
home or at Domino's?
That's a-
Ooh.
So
Okay.
once the video went viral, they decided Domino's to take the problem onto the same platform where it originated. So within 48 hours, which was slightly slow, think about in terms of social media, 2009.
It was
little bit
2009. I feel like it
different
was
place.
just
It wasn't as quick a response. Yeah, right.
right.
as it is
I mean,
today.
it was there, but I feel like it wasn't as there as it is today.
Correct. You need to do minutes now versus 48 hours.
Right.
But still, at that time, maybe that was a little bit more reasonable. So the president, recorded a sincere direct video apology,
Okay.
posted to YouTube, and shared across all the platforms. Addressing the situation. So they announced that the employees were involved were fired and criminal charges were placed.
Okay.
So the immediate visible punishment helped restore customer confidence in the safety of the product. Then a few months later, this is where the brand was reinvented. Domino's launched the Pizza Turnaround campaign, where they brutally and publicly admitted their pizza was bad, used customer feedback to develop a new recipe, and documented the entire process. This demonstrated extreme transparency and a willingness to change, eventually leading to a significant increase in sales and possible brand shift. Interesting.
So if these 2 kids never tampered with the food, then maybe they wouldn't be
Yeah.
still
So
in business.
So that's interesting too, because then that means the company took that seriously, not just to punish these 2 employees and fire them, but
Right.
they didn't just kind of like dismiss it after that. They decided to take it and talk about it. And talk about how does their brand look? What is the perception?
Right.
What should we be doing better? They took it internally and decided we need to be better. How do
And
we
made like a moment from it.
They had a reflection.
That's it.
A reflection. Self-reflection of a brand. I kudos on that part.
I was going to say that's pretty genius. You know what I'm saying? To sit down and say, okay, we're going to address the situation. We're going to
Mhm.
tackle it head on. And then we're going to take that moment and we're going to figure out how do we make ourselves better.
I mean, we should all learn from that.
100%. But was the food like when they said their food wasn't good? Like,
I don't
I
know.
wonder, like,
What wasn't good about it?
was it not good,
I
or
don't
was it
know.
like a PR
I'm curious
stunt
if
to
anyone's
try?
eaten
I'm
that to
curious.
tell
Did you eat a
us.
2009 slice of Domino's, and then did you eat a 2000 what 10, 12, 11? I don't know.
Today, I don't know.
Today, what
don't
is the
know.
difference? But I think that's genius because they just rebranded themselves.
Yeah.
So
So well done on their part.
kudos to Domino's. And again, getting in front of it. So I think another one, this is not recent, but we also talked about when we were talking about sodas, we were talking about the what was it, the new Coke or the Coke?
Oh,
When
by
they tried
Coke?
when they tried to like change the
Oh, they
ingredients.
changed the formula.
Right. So Domino's changed their formula
Right.
and it worked. Coke changed their formula and it did not work. I don't
Wait,
drink soda,
No,
so
I don't
new,
either. But
old,
do you
I
know
don't
this
know.
whole thing? Like, people are so loyal to either Pepsi or they're so loyal to Coke, but they're very serious about it. I'm not a soda drinker either, but it is also a culture of
Yes.
one or the other. So changing the formula of something people love and rely on, ooh, people were pissed.
Well, it worked for Domino's, obviously, but for Coke, when they went to be, well, Coca-Cola went to be New Coke, and New
Mhm.
Coke didn't work. Obviously, I think within 79 days they went back to being
79 days.
Coca-Cola.
Could you imagine
Yeah.
how long it took them to find this new formula?
And it was like I think it was
Biggest
seen as like
flop.
their big the biggest marketing flop.
Yeah.
So obviously lesson there is don't underestimate your customer loyalty.
Correct.
But it's funny how that flopped and Domino's didn't. So maybe Domino's needed to revamp. I don't
I
know.
don't know, but I also think it's you're not going to know until you try.
Right.
So you as a brand are like, we're going to take that risk. We're going to do it.
But you know what I think too with Coca-Cola, which is genius? If you go on their website, there's an article dedicated to that. So they don't run from it.
Yeah.
They still embrace it. And I think that's saying, hey, we tried something new. Guess what? It didn't work. We listened to our customers. They clearly didn't like this. So we went back to the original way. And it's like owning, again, like we just talked about, owning a mistake or owning, again, God knows what they spent on that, right? Because
True.
it's a big marketing
Yeah.
flop. But recognizing that that's not what their customers wanted, their customers were loyal to them for a reason. And so let's not, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Right.
But so that I think between the Coca-Cola and the Domino's just shows you sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Right. And I
it's
understand
just
as a brand, you constantly want to, because that's how you remain competitive in a
right.
competitive market. You have to keep changing and adapting. But there's certain things you have to realize are just going to stay. You don't want to change
Right.
it because you don't want to create havoc or upset people. And Coke realized that the hard way is that formula, the original formula, is what people keep coming back for. So you can change other things, but don't
Right.
change your essence. Domino's, obviously, that was different. So you're not going to know until you take that chance, but is it worth the chance?
Exactly. And I think too, like some takeaways from all of these,
Mm.
obviously the obvious is what happened and then what was transpiring in the moments or the hours, days, or lack thereof, from the incident. But with New Coke, it proves that like listening to your audience can actually save your brand, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because if they didn't listen and said to themselves, we spent all this money on this marketing campaign, we're going with New Coke, drink it or drink something else. They didn't say that. So they listened and that saved them. And they took the hit in saying, we made a mistake.
Yeah.
Or we not even made a mistake. We tried something new. It didn't work.
It failed. We're
So,
going back. We're sorry.
Exactly. I think that I think that shows that. And I think too, when we're looking at the other brands, like with Tylenol, I think the lesson there is that you can emerge stronger. I think you can emerge even when I say better, just like not losing yourself in what that crisis was when you put, again, your consumers first. So I think for brands, it's all about the people, put them first. Because like Exxon, when you wait too long, you have distrust. So from all of this, what have we learned? What do we take away? It's that the real nightmare isn't the crisis itself. It's failing to learn from it. And these stories still get taught decades later because of the lessons that remain timeless.
Yep. So we'd love to hear about some of your PR stories or crisis stories. So comment below, send us a DM. We want to learn about the skeletons in your closet.
So stay smart and call your publicist.